In the last episode, I got settled with the ASUS ProArt PA32UC and discovered it had some dead pixels. And that my other production monitor, my LG 31MU97, was completely dead. Unusable. In this episode, we try to fix that and see what else is going on and provide a review of the ASUS monitor. Welcome back to Monitor Roulette. So it's been about a week now. I was thinking it was closer to 2 weeks, but my replacement got here quicker than expected with the PA32UC, the ASUS monitor here. This big, giant, beefy boy, which towers over the 27-inch next to it. I thought 32-inch would be fine. I really did. I thought it would be a nice upgrade, give me more space. But in my current, workspace, my current ergonomic, viewing space, where I only have, maybe 1.5 feet from where I sit to the monitor, it is actually too big. Not only does it have concerns for just general how much I can keep in my field of view without really slightly tilting my head or moving my eyes to the extreme corners, you actually start to get some sort of IRL vignetting on the monitor. I struggled with this with the 31MU97 since it was so wide, but it was only on the far wide corners, not on the top or whatever. But I get a nice, slightly along the top and then completely around the sides vignetting where the brightness seems like it's not uniform. But if I move side to side, a pan tilt kind of thing, or a tilt shift kind of thing, if I move side to side, the brightness is fine. It is just my eyes can't absorb it this close to the monitor. I'm sure if you're used to working with a monitor further away, or you have the setup to move it further away, it would be totally fine. But for my workspace here, it is far too big. Not only that, but I don't know if I mentioned it already, but this monitor actually has a few dead pixels down here, which I would get used to and barely notice in the long term. But when I'm paying this much for something, when I'm not one of those YouTubers that can just go buy 3 of these and kit out a setup, this is an investment for me. I was ideally going to be exchanging it anyway, regardless of monitor dying nonsense, because I paid too much for it to have that. So it has a few dead pixels, but otherwise it's a great monitor. The colors are great. It gets ridiculously bright to the extent that I've been struggling with the brightness in terms of giving me headaches. It is stupidly bright. The HDR looks really nice, even though Windows HDR still needs some work, even though they've made improvements. Having the different inputs for picture-in-picture and picture-by-picture is a really cool feature. And the menu is fairly comprehensible. You have this little joystick on the back and you can go through some settings. The issue is not all of the settings are explained very well, and I do seem to have this weird kind of over-sharpened feeling from the monitor that really screws with my head and kind of adds to the pseudo headaches that I'm getting from it, as everything just has this over-sharpened look. And it's not that the monitor is sharper than other monitors that I've had. It genuinely, some things look grittier than they are ever supposed to because it feels over-sharpened. And they have an actual sharpening variable in the settings. I have that turned all the way down to low. And then they have vivid pixels and a couple other settings, and I tried turning them all off, and it still just has this over-sharpened look to me, and I cannot figure it out. But my time with it is up, as I need to send this back for a return as quickly as possible to cover the payment for the new monitor, which I guess we'll go ahead and unbox here. Another issue I ran into with this monitor, and it was extremely distracting, and a lot of you all actually commented on it on the last video where I was unboxing and setting up this monitor initially, is the haloing effect on white versus black backgrounds, and especially the cursor moving around on dark backgrounds. There was this little light glow halo around white on black or black on white elements that was super distracting and imposing. And this has caused, this is something that should only really be in place in HDR scenarios because of how HDR works and the fact that it's not OLED. But this was in place during my normal day-to-day SDR use. And that was really weird. And like I said, really distracting and contributed to some of my headaches. And this isn't a problem for the DELL monitor that you're going to see in a little bit. So I don't know why it is for this one. But between that and the sharpening, honestly, this monitor was not a good experience. Can I just say that without the lights on, my desk and office lighting these days is really god dang cool. Well, there we go. This stuff is awesome. So I seriously hyped up the ASUS monitor when I was doing the unboxing, and basically take everything I said about it, apply it here. This is the DELL Ultra Sharp UP2718Q. If I'm recalling correctly, it is not actually listed super obvious right here. It's somewhere on here. I'll have a product page link as always. Most of the same aspects apply. It's a 27-inch instead of a 32-inch, but 10-bit ultra high definition 4K, HDR support, full HDR10 support. I believe it can even go up to 1500 nits according to some product pages, but it's at least the full 1000 nit peak brightness. It's another one that I hadn't remembered, but Linus actually reviewed way back. And this, it looks like it's being discontinued because it's not carried in a few of the online retailers. And then Dell actually had this for cheaper than what I paid for the ASUS. So by returning the ASUS, I'm actually getting a little bit of money back and getting a monitor that should be better for my setup. Yeah, it actually says right here, UP2718Q. This thing, again, a DisplayPort, HDMI 2.0, and Thunderbolt 3 support. And I believe it includes the cables. Actually, no, it has a DisplayPort cable, HDMI cable, and then a USB cable included for the included USB hub, of course. So we're gonna get it unboxed here and do the same shuffle we already did once. This box is much more manageable than the one for the 32-inch. That thing was huge and required different packaging. This is more like a standard product box. And so what will happen with this monitor is it will replace the ASUS will go back, and then this monitor arm right here for the gaming setup will still be kind of lonely because my second monitor on my desktop was supposed to come over here, and now that whole plan is screwed until I fix my LG. So it's gonna be kind of lonely, but once I have I don't even have another VESA mountable monitor that isn't being used for something else that I can't take away from. So it's just kind of stuck for right now. In the box, we have some paperwork, install setup for the stand, color calibration report out of the box. Those are always nice to see. We have USB 3.0 A to B cable, HDMI 2.0 cable, looks kind of nice. Standard power cable, and mini DisplayPort to DisplayPort cable. Interesting. Some of the Quadro cards and stuff all have mini DisplayPort outputs, so they can put a bunch on the same card, you know, on the thinner cards. So I guess that makes sense. Then we have the stand right up front here, quite a bit smaller. Doesn't weigh as much, but it doesn't need to. The monitor is substantially less heavy on the whole. This whole package was substantially less heavy than the one for the ASUS. Standard stand. Attach the base here and screw it in, and then the monitor will just click into it. And bam, we are on the stand already. Let's get that reveal going. Similar setup here. Voila, a black square. So we've got vertical height. It's not as smooth as on the ASUS. The ASUS had really smooth vertical height stand, but I mean, it's functional. It doesn't need to be. Of course, got angle shift, and then you can tilt it, but again, that will only be for straightening because the stand does not go high enough to actually support it at a 90-degree angle. You have two USB 3.0 ports on the side here for ports, and then I'm gonna have to get a little funky here. We've got two more on the back, and it actually has two USB inputs for some reason. I'm not sure why, especially since it only comes with one cable. Mini DisplayPort input, two different HDMI inputs. They don't seem to be labeled for any different reason. And then your power input. And then you got menu controls on the bottom, which is what I definitely prefer. All right. Once again, we're gonna get some nice B-roll of this, and then we are gonna switch monitors because I am hoped, guys. I'm hyped to get a monitor that I can use a little bit better. Ugh, look at that barren hole in my workspace. Sick. This feels so small now. Holy crap. So I was using the 31 inch, wider than 16 by 9 before, and then a 32 inch, just full 16 by 9. Going back to a 27 inch, it feels tiny, and now I have this gap between them. Obviously I can bring this one back over and get it back like how I should, but it feels so small now. But this is the size I'm supposed to be using. I'm just used to something different. So now we can actually get the connections, and they should just fit right back in place for what was already there, since it was the exact same overall setup. So power, display port is somewhere. Why do they never make it easier to tell where ports are on the back of the monitor from the front? Someone tell me that. And then whammo, and then I'll have to run another cable for USB at some point. This monitor does not have a line-out jack for headphones, which is not needed for its intended application, but I was using it for when I run game consoles here. So that will be a note, since I was running my 4K HDR game consoles here. Searching for signal. DisplayPort input. Display settings. 200% scaling to start off. Make this my main display. Yep, that's with the HDR on? Really? Hold on. All right, hang on. It's not, the Windows UI didn't change. Input source, yep. Color mode, maybe this is it. No. So this is really hard to convey on a camera, especially a standard definition camera, but typically when you enable HDR, the Windows desktop goes dark because you can only display, like it can't, because the Windows UI isn't HDR compatible. So it makes it really awkward to use as a user. But what if we go to, if we pull up an HDR video, does it actually look HDR? It absolutely does. So you can get HDR, and you can see some of the glow from the local dimming, because it's not an OLED. You can get HDR without sacrificing the desktop experience. That is huge, and that is a massive update over this specific monitor's usability, even in Linus's review from like early this year or late last year. Or maybe it was a year ago, I don't even remember. Holy crap. Let's look at Final Fantasy 15. It's bright, it hurts. I mean, that's what HDR does. Holy crap, dude. And if we go full screen, nice. In the meantime, since this would only give me one working monitor of the same, production level scale, which does affect their color representation and a lot of things, which makes it really disorienting to use two different kinds of monitors together, I headed on over to Level 1 Tech's headquarters and had poor old Wendell try to work on this monitor. He cracked it open for me and was working on it, reading the guides I sent over of the other posts of other people who had the monitor fail in similar ways with regards to this specific ROM chip that handles the power state. He had the right tools to take it apart and work on it and try to flash the ROM chip for it. However, no amount of flashing seemed to work. We could not get the monitor to power on. So I have since ordered a replacement ROM chip that hopefully next time I head down there we can try to swap into it. But at this point, I'm really not sure what to do. And I may end up having to give up hope on this monitor, and that's really upsetting. The camera I was using cut out, but this is freaking great. I will have my expanded thoughts and a full review coming soon. But this is already substantially better of an experience than the ASUS was. So I am stoked to further check this out and share this with you. Thank you so much for watching this weird monitor roulette series. Hopefully I'll have better results and we can get the other monitor fixed at some point too. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more tech education and weird uneducation like this. I'll see you next time.